Washington Journal continues.
On your screen is Alexandria Segovia joining us from Miami. She is our first prize middle school winner, along with her partner Kristen Cuba, who did a video on the Cuban embargo. Alexandria, how did you come up with this topic?
Well, Kristen and I came up with a list of issues that were important to the campaign 2008. So among those issues were the Fair Tax Act, the Cuban embargo, and other issues like that. So we consulted with our advisor, and we eventually came up with the Cuban embargo, that we would do the video on the Cuban embargo.
Alexandria, it was mentioned in some stories that I read that you and Kristen have family ties to the situation. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, my mom, she actually came from Cuba when she was about 15. She would tell me stories that she was like beaten up when she would go to school because everyone hated her for leaving the country. And it was a really bad situation. My father came when he was about 4. And then Kristen's parents came when they were very young. Kristen's mom was like 40 days old. And Kristen's dad, I'm not sure, but it was when he was very young.
What did you learn after doing this video and taking on this project?
Well, we learned a lot of stuff about Cuba, like the embargo and the history of the embargo. We also learned more about the political candidates, their views on the embargo.
Alexandria, let's talk about making this video. How did you do it?
My dad had taught me how to use Windows Movie Maker just a short time before, so we thought we could do it on Movie Maker, and that's what we ended up using. Now, to get the clips that we used in the video, most of them were from YouTube, and some of the clips that are on there are from a C-SPAN show of Cuba. It was like a 2-hour special on Cuba, so we used a lot of clips from C-SPAN. I had to record the clips from YouTube, so I stacked up DVD cases and I put my little camera as a kind of a tripod sort of thing. We edited it in Windows Movie Maker. We came up with the storyline after we did all the research, and we finished the documentary, basically.
And if you could, show us what camera you used. Do you still have that with you?
Yes, I have it with me. This is the camera I used. It's a very simple Sony CyberShot camera. It records video, so that's how we used it, and I didn't even pay for it. It was actually a gift from my grandmother.
And how did the audio work and everything? Did you have any problems?
Yes, we did have some audio problems, and that's one of the very important lessons that I learned while making this documentary. We should have had a microphone, but while we were in the radio station, WQBA, you could hear the radio while we were interviewing Bill McCollum, the Attorney General of Florida. The sound didn't come out too good, and we weren't able to put the sound on his interview.
Well, and you mentioned that your family ties to the Cuba situation. Did your parents watch this video, and did they learn anything new from your video?
My parents did learn a lot of new stuff. So did the representatives that we showed it to. They said, "Oh, I didn't know that," and it was really interesting how we could actually inform other people about the Cuban embargo, and I thought that was a great plus, so that people know what the Cuban embargo is all about.
And beyond using video, you also interviewed people in Little Havana. Were people willing to talk to you, or was that difficult?
Well, some people were and some people weren't. A lot of people, we got the reaction like, "Oh, they're just kids, just do it for them, they're doing a project." Some of them didn't want to be on camera. We tried a couple police officers. They didn't want to be on camera though. And everyone basically just did go for the interview though.
And a little bit more about the first prize winner. You and your partner won $3,000. How are you going to spend the money?
My half, I'm thinking about putting it toward my funds to go to a trip to Australia, because I really want to snorkel the Great Barrier Reef, and Kristen is not sure what she's going to use it for, maybe high school tuition.
Okay, and we're going to continue talking about this with you. And before we do that, though, I would like to know, and probably our viewers want to know, what is your position on the embargo?
Well, I've always been for the embargo, but after doing this documentary, it's strengthened my view on the embargo, and I know more about it, so I can speak more confidently about the embargo and the whole topic of Cuba.
Segovia, her video, we showed you a little bit. If you want to see the entire video, go to studentcam.org. You can watch the whole thing there and find out a little bit more of our contest. Also with Alexandria this morning is Juan Tamayo, Chief of Correspondence with the Miami Herald, and he is joining us so that we can have broaden this conversation out and talk about the politics and policy of the Cuban embargo, and we'll take your phone calls here. And first phone call, Wilton, New York. Go ahead.
Good morning. Actually, you asked her the question I was going to ask, if she was for or against it. And my personal view is I really don't understand it, because I think we look like hypocrites the way we conduct this. We do all this business with China, and they're getting rich off of trading with us, and they're pretty much, my cat died last year from poisoned cat food. We don't do any trade embargoes on them, and they're beating monks. They throw people, and they pretty much are the most brutal regime around. And to me, this is just like a political folly. I just don't understand. If we won't buy their sugar and cigars, but we'll fill the Walmarts with China stuff, and it's two-faced. I mean, if you're going to take a line, you have to stand on a line. But we have to open up trade with those people. If anything, I believe we're hurting them. I mean, they should get a piece of the action. They're 90 miles away. The reason they're poor, basically, is we cut them off in a lot of ways. And personally, I don't understand it. I don't see how we can deal with these other countries and treat Cuba this way. To me.
Thanks, caller. Alexandria, when you did your interviews, did you find that people understood the issue? Or was there some confusion there?
Well, there were some people who did not know what the Cuban embargo was about, and they didn't know that the United States had a Cuban embargo on it. So some people were confused, but for the most part, everyone else knew what it was about and could answer our questions.
You find that younger Cubans feel differently than older Cubans about the embargo?
Yeah, my friends, they do feel a little less loose about it. My parents have a much stronger opinion than people my age, but I do think that people will start to realize, like people my age will start to realize how important that is to our future, because we don't know what's going to happen with Cuba in the years to come.
Okay, our next phone call, Scituate, Maine, on our line for 18 and under.
Hi, I just wanted to, congratulate you that, you're not falling into the stereotype that teenagers are apathetic, because that's like a widely accepted stereotype. But anyways, I just wanted to know why you got involved with, the Cuban embargo in general, because it's such a random thing, and it's great to get involved with anything. But I just wanted to know what it was exactly.
Alexandria?
It's important to me, Cuba's future, and I think the United States should try its best to help Cuba out, not by lifting the embargo, but maybe encouraging change in Cuba by not trading with them. So I just think it's an important issue to me and my family as well.
Alexandria, talk a little bit about your participation in school and different things like student council and things like that.
Well, I'm involved in a lot of things in school. Both Kristen and I are in student council. She's the president, I'm the vice president. We're both Genesis leaders, which is our youth group for religious 7th and 8th grade. So we lead prayer services for them. We're both cheerleaders. Kristen is on the Builders Club and she's a peer mediator. I participate a lot with Hands on Miami, which is a nonprofit volunteer organization, and I'm on their youth advisory council.
Okay. Alexandria, did your advisor, Dennis Wardlow, get you involved in this? Did he come to you, or did you find out yourselves and come to him to get his help with this competition?
Well, my dad, every morning, he puts on C-SPAN to wake me up. So one day I heard about the competition. I was like, hey, I should do this. So I didn't want to do it by myself. So I chose a teammate, which was Kristen, and we approached Mr. Wardlow on the last day of school before spring break. So when we got up to him, he was like, oh, you're making me work on the last day? So we gave him a list of the topics that we thought were appropriate, and he chose one, and we ended up going with the Cuban embargo.